All right, welcome back. So yesterday we talked about frames. Today we're going to be talking about formats. So yesterday was part one. You could see the video titled part one in the thumbnail. Today's going to be part two, and we're going to be talking about formats. And I do have my notes here so we can actually go through all the details together. So to summarize yesterday's video, I'm actually not going to do it, but I am going to summarize it, but only in a couple of seconds, right? That's the point. So in a couple of seconds, frames are perspectives and worldviews. And the way to actually adopt frames is to do basically three things. You need three components to properly adopt a frame and integrate that as part of your experience, at least initially, which is the following. You specify a specific value or principle that you want to hold, because a lot of these values and principles, we know that they're good in theory, or we see them in other people, so we want to hold them. So you got to specify, okay, this is what I want to become, right? This is what I want to hold. Then what you do is you determine the experiences that would allow you to actually adopt that value, to feel that value, to hold that principle, right? So then you have those experiences. Now, as you have those experiences in line with that value, you're going to start to adopt a different perspective if you're conscious about that process. So those are the kind of the three components, is that you are essentially, you are selecting a value or a principle or a belief, if you like, but it's not really a belief. It's really more of like because remember, the belief is through the action. So you can't say, I want to pick a belief. Well, if you pick a belief, you have to do things that will act in accordance with that belief. So technically, it would be part of that trio. You could use other synonyms, but really, value, principle, belief. You pick experiences that would be aligned with that. You have those experiences, and as you have those experiences, you begin to adopt a frame that is going to be in line with the type of person that you want to become, that you've specified. Now, oftentimes you can adopt the frame, and that frame is going to be shaky if it's not rooted in anything. That's why I always stress experience, and I always shy away from telling you to just think a specific way and just kind of like use your mind and your imagination. These things are important, and we're going to talk about them in future videos as far as like visualization. But those three components are important. So that was like a couple of minutes summary of yesterday's video. Now in today's video, we're going to be talking about formats. So formats are effectively how do you actually go through the process of adopting that frame, that belief system, that value structure, the principles that you want to hold. So how do you be consistent with the experiences that you're going to be having that allows you to stay on the path? So this is like the actual doing. So I'm going to go through my notes here, and then we're going to break things down as we tend to do on these videos. So if you do something that quote unquote doesn't make sense, or quote unquote doesn't feel exactly right or the perfect thing, it doesn't matter. If you are using the right formats, for example, the process flows, the setting and acting on conditions, then that is what's going to move you forward over the sense of it doesn't feel exactly right. It's not exactly fake it till you make it. That's not really what I'm trying to say here. But what I'm saying is that the reason you feel uncomfortable is because you've never done it before. So you can't possibly feel comfortable doing something you've never done before. Because by implication, the analogy is you're walking into darkness and you're illuminating the darkness with your own eyes, and your eyes have to kind of acclimate to the darkness. So when you're doing that, you're kind of stepping cautiously. So a lot of people, the reason they don't do anything to begin with is because they think they need to know the exact pathway before they do anything. But the pathway is going to be revealed to you as you walk on it. It's like as you step. Remember that little video game character in the bottom corner when you play those old video games, how there's like a little light around him, and then there's like darkness surrounding the area, and as he moves around, the darkness becomes illuminated, and you actually have a sense of what the map looks like. That's exactly the process. So you have to walk through the darkness to understand it. So setting and acting on conditions, right? So if you're using the right formats, right, what I'm talking about is the process flow, the setting, acting on conditions. So what do I mean practically speaking? And I spoke about this in a previous video, which is you're setting up your life in a way that is going to facilitate you taking those actions. It's going to facilitate, it's going to compel you to do the things. So as an example, when I wake up, I have over here, I, I read the Bible. Okay. So I have my Bible there. I have my journal there. I have my tea, my glass here. It's like everything is kind of set up in a way where when I walk into the space, it's like my brain knows what to do. I'm just looking at things and things are becoming available to me. Or things that you just can do one time and write it down. Like there are some people that will decide they're going to work for, they're going to work with earbuds in and they're going to listen to white noise or silence, right? That's part of the conditions that you're setting up to actually get yourself to do the things in an effective way for you, right? Because everybody's different. So what that also means is knowing specifically what to do and what is the time allotment to do those specific tasks or activities. So I know that I'm going to stretch, say, for example, for between 10 and 15 minutes. I'm going to meditate. I set a timer for 30 minutes, 20 or 30 minutes. Okay. So these are conditions that you're setting up because you know that you have to do X, Y, Z. And for X, Y, Z, you have a specified amount of time for X, a specified amount of time for Y, specified amount of time for Z. So you're going through all of those things and you're using your calendar or you're using essentially timers or even your own mind. You know that you've written it down, so you're going to spend that amount of time and you're setting up your space, right? Your physical space in a way where you can actually do that. And also your mental space, which means going to bed at a specific time, waking up at a specific time. So having the right sleep, the right amount of sleep, the good quality sleep. Some people need 6 hours, some need 7 or 8. So you have to figure out what works for you. If you eat late the night before, are you groggy the next day? Then maybe stop eating late the night before. These are conditions that you're setting up to allow yourself to perform. So it's all part of the process. So that's important. And again, you're not going to get it perfect. That's why don't focus on perfection. Oh, I messed up. Doesn't matter. Everybody messes up. Fail every day. It's not really a big deal. So just get over that whole failure thing because it's a natural part of human existence. You could think of it in a way of like we're born failures and then we just learn how to succeed or how to win at things. So it's not really don't get hung up on that. Don't beat yourself up over that because it's just a normal part of being a human being. So moving on, combining various levels of understanding, theoretical and practical, over time becomes part of your intuitive sense, which aligns with your experience, which is your internal experience, and the active manifestation of that experience, which is external. So combining various levels of understanding, theoretical, which means, okay, in theory, I know what I want. I know what this means. I know what the concept of having a specific character trait looks like. I can't experience that. I can't really feel that. Or like if you want to deepen your connection with like the divine or with God, or if you want to be more skilled at doing a particular thing, you know that you know theoretically what needs to be done, but you haven't done it. So you have to practically do it. That way you can see if in theory, you got to test out your theory. It's like in theory, this needs to be done. But maybe for you, you instead of doing those 3 things, you need to do 2 of the same things in one thing from like some other category. And instead of an equal ratio of these 3 things that you think you have to do in your mind, maybe you have to split that ratio because you're less effective or less skilled at one task that's going to be in accordance with becoming this person or achieving that character trait. So you have to combine that level of understanding, theoretical, which means allow that to kind of come to fruition, right? Don't shy away from that. And practical, which means the doing. So you're combining those 2 levels of understanding, the theoretical and the practical. And then over time, that becomes part of your intuitive sense. So what that means is that you're going to have a feeling of what needs to be done. It's more of like and that feeling is going to be in alignment because remember, you're having that experience. You're doing the thing, you're having the experience of the doing. You're also having an internal experience as a result of the doing. So you're perceiving what you're doing, and that's feeding back into how you're thinking. And then it's also creating something in the world. So all of those things are playing together, and you're paying attention to what's happening. So you can allow yourself to feel those insights. And that way you start to build an intuitive sense of what you need to be doing. But you have to be very careful with this because you don't want to be impulsive. That's why in the moments where you feel like you are a bit like kind of like nervous or anxious or impulsive, take a breath, take a step back. You know what I mean? Stare at a wall, close your eyes, look out the window, and allow yourself to kind of feel into your experience and think, okay, is there something that I'm missing? Is there something that I'm avoiding? Am I pretending that I'm being productive, but what I'm doing is really wasting my time? Is this a priority right now? So you got to take pauses as you're doing the experience to reflect on that experience so you can optimize it. Act in the way that you know is right, even if you don't feel congruent or comfortable at first. So this is effectively what I was talking about before, which is that once you start doing it and you start walking on the path, you're not going to feel congruent or comfortable. The reason why is because you're going to feel like you're on shaky ground because you haven't walked there before. So you don't know the territory. It's unexplored territory. You don't know it. You don't know if you're going to step on a you don't know what you're going to step on. you know. So yeah, don't worry about that. Just act in the way that you've been specifying, because if you actually think through these things, you're gonna come up with an answer, and that answer is gonna be a temporary answer, and it's gonna be an ever evolving answer. When I say you're gonna come up with an answer, I mean, okay, so you're specifying a specific character trait. You want to have these experiences, so that therefore you can adopt these perspectives, and now you're laying out your calendar or your schedule, your conditions, so you can do things properly, and you're in the mode of doing. That is a massive win. You got to give yourself credit for that. You really have to give yourself credit for that. So don't think that you need to have like the exact way. The point is like you just need to be consistent in doing the things, right? And kind of reflect and make adjustments. So don't worry about things being right. It's very likely that it's going to be wrong or partially wrong, but that's okay, because at least you're kind of oriented and you're doing things to improve your life, to make your life better, for the betterment of you, for the betterment of hopefully, your family, the community, etc. So, and maybe if you're religious, you believe that you're acting in accordance with God's will for you. I don't really want to get into that rabbit hole right now because I could definitely expand upon that, but we'll go into that in the future. So let's continue from that. So you act in the way that you know is right, even if you don't feel congruent or comfortable at first, because you're walking into the unknown. This is where new information is found, and that is the resource for your development as a human. That's your resource. The resource is the chaos. The resource is the darkness. The resource is the unknown. The resource is you staying away from content, stopping the distractions, looking inwards, and unlocking those caverns and finding out what you're really about. Those, like, these things are resources. Doing new things in the world, these things are the resources. In discovering these unknown territories, you are constantly coming into alignment with new experiences and perspectives that connect you with everything else and lead you further outwards into the infinitely expansive unknown, which you subsequently transform into the known. So I hope that was helpful. We're going to expand on this even further, but I think that should be pretty clear as far as like frames and formats. So you got the frames, constructing those, because again, frame is like a worldview. So once you start doing things in accordance with something that you want to become, and you start to see things differently, then that perspective basically permeates different areas of your life. It'll permeate different processes. So once you start creating different processes, those two things are basically in sync at every point in time. And then you're going to be more likely to continue along the path because you've built that momentum. So this is a good place to start for you to kind of like generate that understanding, because again, sometimes you don't need somebody to spell everything out for you. Like, you should be meditating according to science for 25 minutes every day in this particular position. Like, just give it a rest. All right. Like, because again, you don't want to be beholden to this hyper information, this world of hyper dissemination of information. It's just constantly being bombarded at you, right? Constantly being bombarded at you. So anyway, that was a bad way to end the video, but I'll just leave it there. If you have any comments, if you disagree with me on something, if you want to reach out to me, you can do so. You can DM me on on X or send me an email. But I read all the comments, right? If you want me to cover something, or if you have a question, or if you want to show your support, give the video a like, subscribe to the channel. That always helps, and engage, but until next time, I'll leave you with that. So hopefully that was helpful to kick off the start of your week, and I will see you tomorrow.